All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome to day 2. So this now begins and eventually ends the interview portion of our program. And very first, I would like to call up to the stage the drummer for the entire Enigma years. Some people also know him from other bands like Sparks and stuff. David Kendrick. Okay, how we doing? All right.
Hi, everybody.
So David was here last year, and we had him up on stage. We talked a lot about the Bleeding Spires years, and so David is also selling Bleeding Spires and Empire Fun stuff. So make him go home empty-handed, please. Okay? I challenge you to empty out everything he's got over there. Thank you. So, but tonight I had posed a couple questions to David that he didn't like having, but I've got some time, so I'm gonna ask him some questions he does like, and then we're gonna get mean and we're gonna ask him some questions he doesn't like. Okay? So a little bit of a different interview. So right off the bat, we want to talk about obviously David's time with Devo. That's our focus today. So we're not going to talk about Bleeding Spires unless you ask the question. Or Sparks. We saw the movie. Okay, so right off the bat, we want to talk about your time with Devo. How did they connect with you? I guess would be let's start at the beginning. How
Sure.
did they connect?
I was playing Sparks, so I have to say that. And always in a couple other groups at the same time. Devo had taken a break after Shout, and but they still had their studio, and I found myself working there on projects that Bob too, who I knew socially, was involved in. He's a really kind of under-acknowledged record producer, just engineer. He was fantastic at it. So I was there a lot, and also I was playing in a group called Visiting Kids, which featured real kids singing. And Bob One and his daughter Alex were in the band, as well as Mark's girlfriend at the time, Nancy Ferguson. And I got them on a Sparks show or two. And that was a very fun. I'd never worked with 5, 7, and 9 year olds.
Just keep on saying Sparks.
Yes. And, anyway, so I was around all the time, basically. So when they got starting up again, it was I was there. So it was pretty seamless, and that S-Word band was no longer playing live. So I worked really well.
The S-Word band. That's how we'll refer to them for the rest of the evening. The S-Word band. In fact, if you're doing any autographs, would you sign it David S-Word?
And then you'll know it's 2022.
That's right. Okay, so from there, so I'm going to kind of skip around a little bit. You actually had a story that you wanted to share of your time during Devo.
Yeah, it just occurred to me. It's a few minutes long, but it's kind of funny. At the time, when we were working on records, Devo had their own studio in Marina Del Rey, and we would go there to work every day, noon to 5 or 6, whatever, sometimes longer, and work on songs. But occasionally guests would come by, musicians, some, and the neatest guest in some ways was Timothy Leary, who was an erudite, super intelligent, well-dressed man. I mean, he was ultra, uber intelligent, and I just felt like stopping what you're doing and talking about cosmology or the third Bardo or just, the world. Anyway, he came more than once, and that was super interesting. But the oddest guy was this guy named D. Anthony, who I am told was managing the band. And he came for a week. He was around. In the 70s, he managed groups like Emerson, Lake and Palmer, Jethro Tull, Peter Frampton. I mean, people that sold, ridiculous things. And he was one of those guys that, if I can't get the deal in 2 phone calls, you're not worth my time. that kind of. And he was retired. He lived on his own island in Bermuda. He raised hot peppers, which I kind of liked. He had his own peppers. Anyway, he came out of retirement for some reason to manage Devo. So he would come and he'd be sitting there, and we had a chair. There was I think it was like a passenger seat from a car, and he would sit there, listen for a few minutes, and then he would fall asleep. Like the afternoon, he'd fall asleep and then wake up and it's like, oh man, time for dinner, and then that's what he did. So occasionally though, I would like say, because he was at a point, he was like a big deal manager, like, and his whole thing that rock was the biggest thing in the world in the 70s, and again, it's like he was in this position where you didn't have to do anything. It happened. It's like, so but we still wanted some little nuggets of knowledge, or war stories, and he would be, well, because he managed Peter Frampton, this guy, who at the time did a record that sold like 20 million copies called Frampton Comes Alive. So I was like, how did this happen? Oh, he got kicked out of Humble Pie, and they had done a live album, and I thought, I don't even have to put him in the studio, and just live album, tape it, and sold 20 million copies. And that's like amazing. So I had nothing to do with it. Just happened. No, you're supposed to say like, this was my plan, and so he did that all the time. And then there was their Dirty Dancing soundtrack. Yeah, this movie's a piece of crap, and the soundtrack, and a bunch of people I'd never heard of, but I made some kind of phone call and got it on a label, and sold 20 million copies. And you're like, so you heard something no one else heard? He said, no, I didn't know anybody on the record. Just made the deal. Like sitting there like, I'm glad we're in such good hands. Anyway, that just makes me laugh.
All right, well, so I've never heard that story before. That's so great.
I will say that he went back into retirement though after Devo.
Sucks to hear that. So I was talking to David once, I guess a couple years ago, on Tom Cheeky's video meeting that we had. Right? Tom, if you're out there.
He's outside.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
So never mind. So I don't like to ask the questions that everybody likes, like what was your favorite moment in Devo, But I'm going to ask it right now. What was your favorite moment in Devo? Your absolute favorite, the thing that you remember that like, man, that was a really cool minute.
Jeepers, that's a trick question. Right?
It is a trick question.
Reducing things, distilling them down to the
one of your top 10. Top 20.
I've told this story before, but it's one of the moments that kind of brought like the artfulness and the chaos of the universe and how everything kind of sometimes makes a picture you would never imagine in 1,000 years. And there's some people here that have heard this story, but we were on a tour for Total Devo, and we were playing in Detroit, and we never had opening acts, ever. But for some reason we did, and there was the perfect marquee of all time. And it was like this old theater we were playing, and the marquee, it was like, 1920s, large auditorium. And the marquee read, Devo, Elvis, Hitler. The opening act was named Elvis Hitler, but it was just ridiculous.
Okay, I regret not having ever asked that before. But it does kind of tie into the kind of questions I do like, because I like to ask people like some of the darker, stuff that nobody ever asks. Like, well, a lot of people ask like, what's your favorite moment? So during this video stream that was, I guess, just maybe 2 years ago, I said, well, what were some of the moments that you hated? What was like your really low points in Devo? Like when you're doing your thing with Devo, what was the thing that you'll never forget that you're like, And he's like, yeah, thanks for bringing up those memories. So here we go.
Okay, well, there was one that really stands out. We were doing Earth Day show in San Francisco, outside, and Earth Day is an obviously relevant event because this planet is in fact the only one we have. So, and we need to take care of it a little better. So we were doing a show there, but it's back in those days it actually rained in California, and it was a few decades ago, but it's like things have changed already. Anyway, we were part of a just like awareness thing for Earth Day outside, I think, Golden Gate Park, and Jefferson Starship, not Jefferson Airplane, Jefferson Starship, had just played,
No,
just played,
Jefferson.
and we, it was this, the clouds were in the sky, it was darkening, but we were on the stage and we were going to do kind of an interesting acoustic version of Devo, so it was going to be this one-off cool thing. And just as we were getting on stage, it started raining, and the fire department absolutely freaked out. They were seeing like power arcing, and we were like, no, just, we have to wait a minute. It can't end with Jefferson Starship plays. And we were like, on stage, like, ready to play. Like I was ready to click, and it wasn't happening, and the rain kept coming, and it was like, this is going to end badly. And it did. That was it. We could not play with the fear of getting electrocuted badly. There's no cover. But that was great. And I want to thank you in person for bringing that up.
Oh yeah. And if only it had stopped there, there wasn't even, in my mind, funnier or worse story. And I guess this was not another bright moment for you.
Oh yes. We were touring in Europe, and which is a great place to tour because the promoters there, especially in Italy, are very proud of chefs they know, and you get some nice food when it's mushroom season, that kind of stuff. But I'd eaten something and was kind of sick to my stomach, and in between songs, I would try and arrange being sick to the side in some kind of rhythm where it didn't interfere. It was abysmal experience.
Now that is
Thank
a
you for
soldier.
that too. And I certainly didn't need any lights to look pale and ashen. That was gruesome.
So these are the kind of questions that I ask. So we don't end on a sour stomach note. Does anybody have a question that's maybe a little bit lighter? Straight ahead in the dark hat.
All right.
Stand up, shout it out.
I have a Sparks question.
All right, it's a Sparks question, just in case anybody's wondering. Okay, go ahead.
This is a serious question.
All right.
So you were there during some of their best years.
Thank
Can
you.
you tell me, as a big Sparks fan, you have to know, Ron's brother got all the female attention. Did Ron ever get any room?
Right here!
The way I look at the Mail Brothers, they are one symbiotic being together. So whatever the other one does, the other one is aware of. But so they form one complete being. Honestly, for years and years and years, Ron wrote all the words that he would put in his brother's mouth, and Russell was the singer. But Ron wrote all the lyrics. So to answer your question, Ron, no, never. He would talk to people, but I don't think that kind of had much to do with his sense of reality. I mean, it was just not part of it.
All right, thanks for the Sparks question. Do we have any non-S-word questions? In the very front. Shout it out.
Okay.
I thought you were going to sing it.
Bernie told me that during the filming for Fun for Children, the music video, really inspired me. Apparently, Bob Big's truck was apparently there was a bunch of stuff in it, a bunch of gear, and apparently, whenever you tried to turn the car along, it would fall off. How was that? It would fall
Well, it didn't actually fall over, but we ended up using the truck the way kids running amok would, where they like stole all the instruments, all the ice cream we had. They like were pulling in their hands and smearing it on the side of the truck and smearing it. But we did manage to get out of the photo shoot without the truck tipping over. So.
That's it. All right, so we're going to end it here. I just wanted to do this really short session with David because there's a lot of people in the room, and to me, you know, one of my favorite drummers right here. So please, everybody.
I love coming to chatting, so please approach me.
So yeah, so he's probably one of the most approachable guys from any band. So after you're done buying all his stuff, you know, ask questions then. You can ask him anything, and he'll sign anything, literally anything. So, okay, so for this next segment, in just a few minutes, something cool is going to happen. You're going to see something that no one in the world has ever seen. And so we won't be able to broadcast it for those who are watching on YouTube. You can't see it. I am very sorry. It stays right here in this room. And again, for those people right here in this room, we're going to do this thing where, like, pencils down, no videotaping, no putting on Facebook or any other social media. This does not leave here. Okay?